and I have been coerced into believing that it is the best platform for group video conference calling. So please forgive me if I try to find my way around it, but should be able to manage with some few things. Um, so let me attempt to share. But whilst I do that, will it be possible that we could just take the first 10 minutes or so to welcome ourselves? As many as will let me know. Okay, so I've seen Michael Aban that I think I know. I've seen Prince that I know. And two, okay, I'm trying to, okay, I think just some few people that I know. Whilst we are going on, if you could kindly just briefly introduce yourself in the chat box. Two things I would like to know about you. First, your name, and then two, what you expect out of this session. So, what are your expectations out of this? I have not been privileged to be part of any of your previous discussions, so I won't be able to get a sense of the trend that things have been going. But I would like to also get an idea of your expectations out of this session, so that if there's anything that from my experience with work, I can be able to chip in, and there's any contribution from your end as well. We can all have a discussion on that. I am not going to teach, that is not my style. I'm only going to share thoughts based on my experience that I've had over the last almost 11 years. Well, 11 years in corporate work, but actually dealing with people for almost my lifetime. So I will share some few thoughts, maybe not academic, because I think that if I do academic, then I'll be shooting myself in the foot because that is not my stronghold. It's very possible that most of you are even stronger than me in terms of academics, so I'll not even go there. But I just share thoughts of some few things I have learned over the years, and then maybe we could all have a good discussion. If is it okay to use the first 10 minutes or even less to, okay, I've seen something here.
Yeah, sure. If you want, we can go around and then everyone can do a quick intro.
Right.
I
So
think
my
that would be
first,
nice.
yes, I think that would be great too. I've seen you type something over there. Let me attempt to also do something over there.
But do you want us to do it like verbally, or you want us to type it?
Well, since I'm not very used to this, which would you prefer, or which would be the best?
I think whichever one everyone prefers. But I mean, verbally will be great so that we hear from everyone.
Okay, so let's go. I've seen Ignatius type something in there, so maybe we start from Ignatius.
Okay. Ignatius, do you want to start? Tell us your name, where you're from, and your expectations from this discussion.
Hello.
Yeah, Ignatius, I can
Hello,
hear you.
you can hear me. Yes, my name is Ignatius Rabin Kusimba. I'm from Kenya, Nairobi.
Right.
Yes, I expect to. Thank you.
I didn't hear that. I think I missed that.
What did you miss? I've said
You said you expect
Ignatius
to.
Rabin Kusimba.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I expect to learn. Like,
Okay.
I want to be a better person. I want to have a positive impact to the society.
Right. Great.
Those are just my major expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ignatius wants to learn.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Joseph Umarin from Nigeria, residing in the southern
Okay.
region. I'm a student and a multi. I believe I will find myself and become a better leader in the future. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, Joseph.
Hello?
Yeah, your network was a bit bad, but we had you.
Okay.
Thank
Were
you.
you able to hear from me?
Yes, there were a lot of some break, but we heard you. Yeah. Or maybe you can type it in the chat as well so that if
Yes,
we
I
miss
think so
something, we
too.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll do that. I'll do
Okay, great. Miriam, do you want to introduce yourself, your name, where you're calling from, what you expect to get?
Oh, okay. I'm Miriam Kosi. I'm calling in from Malawi. I'm a social work student.
Nice. What are your expectations from this discussion? What do you hope to learn today?
I think it's a greater understanding on the module. I think that reading it and being able to see it come to life would be different, and so I'm really expecting in terms of just being able to understand it more in a more lively manner. I'm hoping for what I learned to actually come to life in this discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick reminder, this session will not exactly be based on the module, okay, because Mr. Peprah is a guest speaker. We will have the session that is based on the model tomorrow. So this is a general session about leadership. Thank you. Okay. Miriam, can you mute yourself now? And then when you want to talk again, you unmute yourself. Okay. Who wants to go next? Um, Elijah? Elijah, do you want to tell us your name, where you're calling from, and your expectations?
I'm not sure Elijah can hear us.
Okay. Okay, so anyone can go if you're ready. Just quickly introduce yourself and then we can continue.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Temtokwe from Nigeria.
Okay.
I'm expecting to learn how you handle human relationships. How perhaps you've been successful in handling your human relationships at our Mr. Mathew Boateng. So that was my expectations for today's meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Is there anyone who's available? All right. Let me attempt to share my screen. Okay. Right. Okay. Is it working?
It is working.
What do you see?
The leadership challenge.
Oh, okay. So this thing works. Forgive me. I am playing for the first time, so I was expecting to see some slight touches, but I think that once this is fine, then we are good to go. So, is it still working?
Yes, please.
Okay, is it bigger now?
Yeah.
I went to presentation mode now. Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm going to briefly talk about my experience in leadership. I'll pick it from two perspectives, knowing that most of us would be very great people in future and be heading big organizations and different institutions. I'm also mindful that even at this level, we are in one leadership position or the other. Either you are leading yourself or you're leading a group of family, you're leading a group of students, or even at work, whoever you interact with, I see it as a form of leadership. And so how you handle yourself and how you handle things that relate to the things you do are some of the things I'm going to share. And so, like we mentioned, my name is Mathew Peprah Boateng. I head operations for 2 organizations, Legacy and Legacy, and then Springboard Roadshow Foundation. Both organizations are into human capital development. That is a core of what we do. We're based in Ghana. We have people from all over the world who we are privileged to impact and then to work with on a daily basis. We do a lot of media engagements, and I handle that as well. I do branding, marketing, and raising funds for the organization. So this is what we'll be speaking about. I'll give some thoughts from in my introduction, and then I found some statistics that I found quite intriguing. I will talk about that as well. And I'll talk about leading yourself as the first point of the leadership core. And then I'll look at 3 main things: setting clear objectives, making time to think, and then the seed you shouldn't show from now so that it will not grow into something that you wouldn't like. And then I'll look at some common mistakes that we typically would make as leaders and potential future leaders, if I put it this way. So these are the few things I'll be talking about. I anticipate that I will be able to finish this thing up in about 30 minutes. That will take us to, from Ghana time, 2:45, and then we can spend a lot of time interacting and then sharing thoughts on some of the things that I'm going to say. Right, so on my first thing, I'm asking who am I as a first point of leader? And my thoughts are based on 7 things that I have been thinking through since we thought about this leadership thing. And I mentioned to Belinda, is Belinda with us?
Not please, not yet.
Belinda is at work here. She'll join us later. She's at work now.
Right. Please, if you are not used to my type of slides, my slides are mostly tutorial notes. I will attempt to share my detailed notes with you after the session so that you can circulate it for further discussion. But most of what you will see on the slides are pictorial, just so that we can be able to put things in perspective. And so, like I mentioned earlier, everyone, in my opinion, is a leader in one way or the other. You either lead yourself because you plan your life, you plan what you have to do at every point in time, or you lead a group of people, be it 2 people or one other person that you take care of. Even at home, whatever we do is a form of leadership that we do. And then, regardless whatever you do, there are things that I think make people better leaders than the other. I mean, the debate about whether talents are inborn or talents are learned is a clear example of how leadership are. Everybody in his or her own right is a leader. But how you're able to build yourself, understand human beings, understand the nature, times and seasons are things that help you to be able to put things in first. And so from whatever you do, what I think that we should be able to do and set right is that every person should be able to set clear objectives and get to know where you are now and where you want to be. And being between these 2 things is what would get you there. So you know that this is where I am, this is where I want to be, and so what do you need to do to be able to do that? In that doing, we may have to relearn some things and unlearn something that we have acquired through knowledge throughout our lifetime. There may be certain things that you may have been taught in school, or you may have learned through observation or through learning from others, that may not help you to be able to become the leader that you want to be. A very typical example, and I would like to quote something from Alex Ferguson. He is one of my admired football coaches for very obvious reasons. And in his book, Leading, at the back of his book, this is what is written over there. The leader's job is to make everyone understand that impossible is possible. I repeat, the leader's job is to make everyone understand that the impossible is possible. So if you put this in perspective, typically you will go to school and you'll be taught that a leader is the one who sets the pace. A leader is the person who does this or does that. It's inadvertently set our minds to a certain category of people to say that if you are the class captain or if you are the leader of a group in class, then you become the leader. And most of times, others take themselves out of that leadership space because I am not the one taking a decision. I am not the one doing this. I'm not the ultimate responsible person for this. And so it is that. But if you look at this, anyone who takes up the challenge to say that I want to do this, and so I bring other people together to help me to do this, this objective I've set for myself, inadvertently become a leader. Even if you don't have that at the back of your mind, the fact that you work with people and try to convince them to achieve something makes you a leader. And in so doing, it takes that responsibility off the person who thinks that, oh, I am not this. And sometimes we stand at the back and say, these are the leaders, and so they should go. So those are some of the introductory talks that I'm going to talk about. And then the last thing I would like to add, I've mentioned 6 things so far. I don't know if you are following, but let me just run them by in bullet points so that if you are not following, you can be able to follow in that order. 1, everyone is a leader. 2, having a group of people under your command doesn't necessarily make you a leader or an excellent leader for that matter. 3, leadership is a process and not a destination. So you don't arrive, say, I have arrived, but every day there are challenges that you need to overcome, and then you learn to do that. And that was when I mentioned that you need to unlearn some things, you need to relearn, and then rethink through some other things. And then I mentioned a quote by Alex Ferguson, one of the greatest leaders I have seen. The 5th one I'll mention is that we need to move beyond academics to think of it as I go to school to learn leadership. And so because I have learned leadership, I am a leader, or I've done a course that is related to that, so I'm a leader. That is a skill to help you to become a better person. It doesn't mean that if you have not done that course, if you've not learned anything in that, you are not a leader in your right. And then the last but one I would mention is that people are the greatest assets of leaders. And so a leader, you would know, gathers resources to achieve what he or she wants to. But in my opinion, the best resource leaders have are the people that they work with. So these are my introductory thoughts. I'm going to share some few statistics just in passing so that you get to know some things that are happening in the world out there. I'll just run through them, and then later, if we need to look at anything, we can look at that. It is estimated that 10,000 baby boomers are retiring each year. And just to put it in perspective, baby boomers are people who were born between 1946 and then 1964. So averagely, people between the ages of 55 and 73 thereabouts. And estimated that each single day worldwide, globally, 10,000 of these people are retiring. 48% of the workforce will be between 27 and 22 and 37 years. It's estimated that, and these are millennials mostly. So on one hand, a lot of people are retiring. On the other hand, 48%, about half the global workforce, are within the ages of 22 and 37. If you look at these two, there's a correlation. There's a correlation between the people who are living and those who are there. And what is even most interesting is that out of the 48, which is about half the workforce, 67% of these are looking for new jobs. And so although they are in the job market, they are thinking of leaving one organization to the other. And so it talks about shifts in the leadership needs. I have several other things that we'll do, but what I want to put on record is that 71% of organizations do not feel that their leaders are able to lead the organization into the future because of some of these shifts that are going on. And highly influenced by this is technology. And there are researches that prove that in the year 2030, artificial intelligence, robotics, and the likes are going to take over a large chunk of the workforce. Sometimes even to about 30 or 40%, some are even predicting about 50% of the work that we do now may not exist in 2030. So those are some few thoughts that I thought that will be interesting for our discussion. The first thing I think that everybody or every leader would need, I'm going to talk about the three things I mentioned. First is leading yourself first, which is self-leadership. I'll talk about setting clear objectives as a leader, and then I'll talk about making time to think. These are the three things I'm going to talk about as a leader and as skills that people would know. So I'll first want to start with setting self-leadership. The best test of every leader's capacity is his or her ability to lead him or herself. And so if you want to be able to lead others to a desired destination, the first thing or the first test that you need to qualify is that you should be able to lead yourself and be able to put yourself right before you can be able to lead others. Leaders are not all knowing. That is one unfortunate thing. Unfortunate because sometimes we get the impression that once I am the leader, I should be able to know everything. But unfortunately, you can't and you shouldn't. You gather resources and be able to bring people together, bring ideas together, and work with ideas together with other resources to be able to get you to where you are. And in so doing, one thing that I find very important is discipline. And discipline is, in my very simple word, if you are supposed to get an assignment done in 2 hours and you are extremely tired and hungry, discipline is your ability to be able to control yourself to get that thing done. In my very simple definition, that is what I call discipline. Discipline is being able to control your emotions, control your feelings, and making sure that the target that you have set ahead of yourself as a leader, you're able to do that. The other thing I find very important is order. Order because if you are not able to control what you do and in your own personal life, then I think that it has a very big influence on your capacity as a leader. A very typical example, most of our African countries, I mean, you may not find this in the cities, but if you go to the peri-urban areas, if you are in an aeroplane or you are simple, let me use Google Maps because that can give you a clear perspectives. If you look at the way our buildings are arranged, and if you look at how roads are laid out, it tells you our mindset about order. Let me use a biblical example. I'm a Christian, so please permit me to use an example in the Bible to buttress my point. When God was giving instructions to Noah to build the ark, he gave very detailed instructions, even the type of materials to use, the measurement for each unit of that. And if you look at how big that ark was, and God giving him that detailed instruction, it talks about order. And any leader, in my opinion, who wants to be able to excel in what he or she is doing should have order in his or her life. You should be able to order your thoughts, order your actions, even the way you arrange things in your room speaks volumes about the type of leader that you are. And then we should make conscious efforts not to just say that, oh, I am time conscious, but respect other people's time. And that is one other thing that I find very crucial with leadership.
14:30.
Kindly forgive me, my laptop keeps reminding me every 30 minutes of time. And then the last one is for us to be able to build leadership capacity. So leadership is constantly challenging yourself. And in doing that, you need capacity. And at every level, the level of knowledge and wisdom you would need to be able to overcome the challenges that you face and the future challenges depends on the capacity that you have. And so the skills you would need to lead a 2-man team is not the same set of skills you would need to lead a group of 10. And definitely not the same kind of skills you need to lead a school or a nation. Each level of leadership requires a different set of skills and a different set of requirements that you need to be able to build. And so these are the 7 things that I put together as someone who wants to be able to lead a team should have. One, the person should have the ability. Sorry, I'm trying to read from my notes. It's making it slightly. The person should not be all-knowing. It should be disciplined, you have order, and be conscious and appreciate time, and should be able to build leadership capacity. And then the best test of leader is ability to be able to lead yourself. And so your ability to be able to lead yourself plus these others, what I think is something that you should know. The second I would like to speak about is setting clear objectives. I'm sure that based on the models you have and based on other experience you've had both through this session and other areas, you would know that one thing that leaders do is to set objectives and do that. But it's not only about setting the objectives. My interest here is how you are able to clearly define the objective so that it's not just you understanding it, but the people that you are working with. I don't want to use the word followers because sometimes it creates a bad impression about what leaders do and who they are. But the people that you work with, how you're able to be accountable to them, how they can understand that vision that you have set for yourself and be able to man and carry that vision along with you to whatever level you want. So for example, if you are not available, will people be able to do these things the same way they would have done if you are around? If you don't qualify or if your people are not able to do that, then it means that there are things that must be able to do. Typically, a leader will sit and write objectives. And for us entrepreneurs, and which I think most of you are, you sit and write objectives. I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You understand it clearly. Beyond that, are you able to communicate those objectives to your people to also come to the same point of understanding as you? Beyond communicating, are they able to imbibe and carry that vision to another level even beyond what you will do? Those are the things I think we should be able to set ourselves right. In doing that, there are things that we should be able to consider. Number one, setting priorities. Obviously, objectives are good, but objectives are bigger forms of things we do. Objectives don't drill down to the day-to-day activities. And so if you're a student and you're leading a group of students to, let's say, an SRC, you set yourself that this academic year, this is what I want to do. Or let's even say that you are a young executive in a corporate organization and you're given an assignment to be able to achieve and report your superior. You set objective by saying that I want to do 1, 2, 3. Are you able to clearly communicate that to people who you are working with? They may not be subordinates, they may be colleagues. But in this case, you become a leader. Are you clearly able to communicate that objective to them and get them to come to the same agreement and drive that objective to the results? These are some of the tests that I think we should be able to do. And then you have to be accountable to yourself in whatever that you set to that. So after defining the objectives, you should be able to carry people along, convince them, communicate to them, face the same challenges with them, and then you have to be accountable to yourself in whatever you do. I forgot to mention that if you have any question, kindly just put it together. If in the chat box, if you have any recommendations or any contributions at all, just put it together. When we are done with this, we could be able to come up with this. as well. Right. The last I will talk about is making time to think. It may be quite odd for me to talk about this when we are talking about leadership, but I find this very interesting because I read a book some years back, the by Robin Sharma, The Greatness Guide, and his point number 1 out of 100 was that make time to think. And for almost about 8 years that I've read that book, it's become one of the guiding principles I personally take and run with. His simple point is that we keep running around day by day and not take time to reflect on our own lives and think through different strategies that we can achieve what we are doing. We are more likely to be able to think through immediately and say, oh, okay, this is what I am thinking, this is what I want to do now, rather than taking time to go through clear set objectives. His recommendation is that a leader at every moment in time, he was recommending between 30 and 45 minutes every morning, just sit down and think. Think of the challenges you are going through. Think of new ways of doing things right. Think of how you can connect with your people. Think of how you can be able to move, if you're into business, move your business to a new level. What new channels of distribution are available? All these things, if you set yourself up to think through it, it will marvel you the kind of things that you'll be able to do and the kind of ideas that would come. And I personally also recommend that when thinking, pen and paper works for me. It works for me because the more I write, the more I get insight into the ideas I'm running around. Before I put down a paragraph or two, or before I even write anything, the kind of ideas that will come up through the process marvels you. And I don't know if you also experience it, but I think the computer doesn't work for me much. I only come to it when I'm doing my final test. And I recommend that to you to try to see if it's something that will work for you as well. It may not be elaborate writing, just PowerPoint, bullet points should be fine. And I have either a pen, a paper, or my tablet with me, even in my bedroom, because I can wake up in the middle of the night with a great idea and start writing. So make time to think, and then through the process, write things down, and then let's see how that would go. And I'd like to end that particular session with a quote from Peter Drucker that says that there's nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. There's nothing so useless as doing efficiently something that should not be done at all. Right. I would like to talk about ethics. I caption it ethics because I want us to think in that line. But two things are very key to me when I talk about ethics. The seed you sow today, or the seed you sown last week or when you were a child, if you water it by your actions and your inactions, it will definitely grow. And so when you were in school, you were writing an exam and someone said, what is the answer for question 1? And you whispered. It is a seed you have sown. If you keep doing that, it will germinate into something that one day it will catch up with you. We may not find it as, oh, we're a leader, I'm helping him, I'm doing that. Or even something very simple. You're giving $100, depending on your currency, to be able to execute a project. Are you able to account for it to the least amount used? You may not find these things quite worrying, but from my experience, I have seen people who, out of ignorance, shoot themselves in the foot because these were seeds they sown while they were in school. These were seeds they sown while they were young, and they thought that, oh, these are very basic things. When I grow, I'll live out of it. But with time, it grew and then it's become very huge things. If you listen to politicians and if you follow some of the things that our politicians do, these were seeds that is sown in times past that has grown to become that. I advocate for strong ethics at every level. Ethics like values and things that are strong that can keep you. And in talking about that, I would like to mention just one thing in passing. It's not directly related to ethics, but I just thought I should just mention it. The command over English language. I'll come to that in my next point, but let me just mention it before I forget about it. So ethics, strong personal values. What do you stand for? What will you do? What will you not do? If you come to my organization, there are things that we simply don't do. What do you do or what don't you do as a leader? And what lessons are people learning from you through your actions? My simple point is, whatever you do now has ripple effects, not just on you, but the followers that you have that you should be able to be mindful of. I will end with some 10 common mistakes that I think leaders do. One is on delegation. Sometimes through our actions, we think that, oh, if I'm able to delegate well, it makes me a better leader. Not necessarily. Knowing when, how, and who is very critical in your management and in your leadership skills. So it's not just about saying that, oh, please do this for me, or please handle this for me. How does that person feed into it? Is the person qualified enough to be able to do that? Qualified not in terms of academic, but is a person able to, based on his or her skills and experience, able to do that? Are you even the best person to do that in that way? Delegation involves first understanding what is at stake and scanning through your people who is the best fit. And one thing, let me mention another thing here, that an understanding of yourself will also involve an understanding of the people you work with. Every single person is unique in his or her own way. We sometimes put people together and then think that, oh, this person can do that, this person cannot do that. But as leaders, we should be able to know who should be able to do what and who cannot do what as one. I mentioned communication earlier because sometimes if we are not able to communicate clearly what needs to be done, it can be very problematic. And let me mention again that communication is not about verbal. The non-verbal communication also counts a lot. Your actions, your attitude, and everything that you do sets the pace for others to follow. And if you have heard this Japanese proverb, that what you are doing speaks so loud that I'm unable to hear what you are saying. Our actions speak so loud, far more than what we say. And most often, there's a wide conflict between what we say and what we do. Oh, forgive me, there's a typo in the third one. It's focus. Forgive me for that. It's about setting the difference between a bigger picture and the daily activity. So when I talked about the objectives, a leader will obviously set a set of objectives. If you are part of a bigger group, your objectives should be in line with that. But how do you drill those objectives down to the daily activities? We sometimes get so carried away by the daily activities that we lose focus of the bigger picture. If you turn the situation around too, sometimes we focus so much on a bigger picture that we fail to see the daily activities, who should do what, who shouldn't do what, and how things should be done in the right order. The fourth thing that I think most leaders don't do right is mentoring and retraining people to take over. And it's very typical in our institutions. And let me commend my very good friend, Prince for a very good job done. I use him as an example because when Prince was taking care of our club in school, he was able to train other people who could even do far better than him. And that is what I think leaders should be able to do. It is even more critical at the corporate level because from what I discussed earlier, there's a gap between those living the corporate world and the millennials and the Generation X people taking over. And so as leaders, one of our key priorities is to be able to know and identify potential people who we can train and retrain. And in mentoring, we should avoid trying to replicate ourselves in people because you will try to put yourself in that person by saying that this is how I do things, and so this is how you should also do things. Allow the person or the people to be able to navigate their own ways, guide them to be able to see the future, and through their own initiatives, build their capacity to be able to do that. Yours is to guide and not to be able to enforce your skills on them. And sometimes we fail to ask for help, obviously, because we think that because the buck stops on us as leaders, we should be the final arbiters of whatever goes on. It may not necessarily be the same. And so you get yourself boxed up in so much that your colleagues that you are working with don't get the opportunity to even learn on the job or be able to learn anything out of you. And you become a one-man show, as we'll put it in Ghanaian terms, and be able to carry that along. So ask for help when necessary and understand people, get to know their strengths and weaknesses, and work with them to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. The number 6 is feedback, and it's one of the biggest lessons I learned when I started my corporate work. Because for those of you who would know, I report to 2 bosses at the same time. And each of them is unique and different in an approach to do things. And so the biggest lesson I had to learn was how to communicate feedback to each of them. And so I am on ground doing an assignment and there's an issue. Because we are working as a team, every team member should be able to know what is going on and be able to act. If there's a gap in communication and there's no feedback from what you're supposed to do, it breaks the communication gap. And it's even critical because if you have to send an email, if you have to do a phone call, a WhatsApp message or anything, you may think that, oh, let me wait till I see the results. Sometimes that gap in time can create huge issues. I was doing a review meeting with one of my new colleagues in the office who is handling business development. He had gone to one company to negotiate for a training program. Apparently, the person he went to see is someone I've known for many years. If he had told me that, oh, I am going to see or I want to see this person, I could have easily told him, do that or see this person or do this or that. That is the kind of feedback I'm talking about, because sometimes you think that, let me take an initiative to be able to do this thing right. But for all you know, a colleague of yours who may be a subordinate may have information that you may not have, or may have an experience that you may not have as a leader. How do you communicate to them? It doesn't also mean that every information should be out there. You should be able to discern which information should be private and which information should go public or to your colleagues. But analyzing feedback and giving your people clear communication plan should be able to help with that. Number thing is that sometimes we take things too personal, and we feel personally hurt when people do things because we think that I am the best person to have done this. Or instead of looking at issues, you rather will attack personalities. So a colleague of yours or someone you're working with has done something that has gone terribly wrong, or puts up an opinion that's for consideration. Look at the opinion of the person rather than the personality, and think of separating the individual's personality from what is there. If there's a need to punish, please go ahead and do it, but don't let the person know that You are doing that, or you are punishing him or her because of what he or she has done. Because you are punishing her for what he or she has done, not because of his or her personality. Let that be very clear with that. And then we should not manage people the same way. Not two people are the same. Everybody is different, so understand people's differences and use that to work with them. And then when there's the need to have very crucial discussions, if someone has done something wrong, know how to approach the person and do that, and not let the person feel hurt or feel bad that I have done this. Genuinely, it may not be out of a plan to destroy, but genuinely, the person may not know. How a leader is able to handle such situations is very key. And then my last point is that there's a difference between building trust and building a team. You can put together a very successful team, but the people will not trust you. Trust comes with time. It comes with you constantly delivering on your promise, being able to help your people to be able to achieve their aim, and loving the people, connecting with them at heart. It is something that I think most leaders, especially we young leaders, are not able to do very well. So I think that we should be able to know how to build trust and how to build a team. Thank you so much. These are the few thoughts I would like to share on leadership, and then invite us to also come in. Thank you very much. I feel over to you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. I believe we have all learned a whole lot. So I think we can, before we go, we can take some questions. And I don't know, I have questions of my own, but I'll open it out for the others
Right.
to bring in their questions.
How do I see the chat?
The chat?
Yes.
You should see. Do you see the chat icon? You should see the chat icon.
Okay, you go
see
ahead.
a chat icon. Okay.
Okay, absolutely.
So, okay, great. So does anyone have any questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Okay. For them, I think I'll go ahead.
Hello.
So when you talk, I think one of, hi, who's speaking?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Hi, Joseph. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I want to ask a question.
All right, go ahead.
Now, about leadership. I have been in a position as the provost in my musical department in the church. And there are set rules by which we have to keep and move accordingly. And the challenges I'm having now, since my late mother departed this world, I've been a major support to my dad. And sometimes I could not meet up on time, being the provost in the place that maintains kind of regulation. And the challenge now for me to implement the rules and the regulation is something I overlooked. I acted as if those rules were not there. And because I have acted as if the rules were not there, other people cannot keep to those rules. And at the point in time, I was disturbed and I need to go back to my position and enforce some of the rules that we need to enforce as pertaining to the musical department. But at the point I have this kind of conviction, people will revolt, people will feel you were not able to keep to the rules, you were not able to live up. How will I do?
Right.
I don't know if Mr. Peprah heard your question clearly.
Let me
missed some parts of it.
Yes, let me rephrase in very simple, clear, so that if I miss anything out. The first point is that you are the leader of a group. and then there were rules set before you joined, you became the leader. Through
Yes.
through other activities, you were not able to adhere to those rules. But you
Yes.
find it important to implement those rules now. But you're facing challenges because people thought that you couldn't abide by them. Why are you forcing us to do that? Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Actually being provost of the musical department in the church.
What do you do as a provost?
Now, my job as the provost, I coordinate the time we started our rehearsals and the time the praise team is supposed to be on the music stand. And I coordinate the kind of uniform you dress down to the music stand because our music stand is very disciplined. We ask to wear black belt, blue trousers, blue bow tie, and a white shirt, and you have to wear that. And there is a time by which you come into the church. After the praise, and we are heading to the hymns. After they might have sung the hymn, when once they start singing the hymn, don't bother coming to the music stand. And these are activities I could not live up to expectation due to some of the activities I do to support my dad since my late mom lived. But I know that is not an excuse. Although I feel that these rules and regulations are very important and people are not living by it. And I myself, I need to implement it, but I cannot do it because deep down me, I'm being judged by my consent. So how
All
do I
right. So,
overcome?
sure. Just one more question. Do you have superiors in the group?
If we have tutorials?
No, as in, do you have superior people, people that you report to?
Yes, we have the supervisor and we have the band leader and the assistant music leader.
So at least about 4 other people ahead of you.
Yeah, before I follow.
Okay. All right. Afia, do we take more or we answer each of them?
If
I
I do have
think we
more questions,
answer. Yeah, I think we answer each of them.
Okay, we'll go with each of them.
Is that okay?
Okay, I would get other people's opinion, but this is what I'm thinking. I don't know what your other supervisors told you when you were not in line. If they didn't, then I think that there was an issue. But those notwithstanding, I think that it's very good if you come clear to the people to tell them that you erred in the past, but you want to do things right now. That helps because it resets everything and brings things to zero. So now, what I think you should do is together with your superiors, have a frank chat with your people to say, look, we made mistakes in the past. We know that if we continue to go this way, it will not help us as a group. These are our set rules. Do we have any objection to any of these rules? Discuss those rules, and then all of you come to an agreement of what to do and what not to do, and take it from there. You need to set the pace because together with your other superiors, you need to set examples for others to follow. And if you're not able to do that, you wouldn't have any moral right to ask other people to do it. You may not get the results you need immediately, but with time, I think that things may go right.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you too.
I don't know if
Any,
anyone wants to add to that, Mr. Nanabuache, since this is also your area of expertise.
is that another Bache from Takrade?
Yeah, he's from Takrade.
He was in KNUST.
Yes, he was.
Right, please go ahead, Nana. Nana, good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Mr. Peprah. I've learned a lot myself this afternoon. I'm glad I joined. So, yeah, continue from where you ended. I think it's very important to always actively engage people, especially in the music group, to always ascertain where, as you said, feedback, to get feedback from superiors. Because there are times where you might think that you might be on the right track, or you might be doing something that you yourself think is right, But if you're not, and as a
It's
leader, if
15 hours.
you're not getting feedback from your superiors, okay, then as to how you are performing, as to how you are doing your work, or as to how you are doing your roles, then you might be blindsided. So I think the feedback is very, very important, as Mr. Peprah highlighted. So you need to engage them, consistently engage them, so that you know where you fall short, and then in that atmosphere of love and correction, and with the vision of God in mind, I'm sure that there'll be ideas, there'll be all the ideas brought up so that you become a better leader and as large make it better in the future. That's what I just want to add.
Right. That's excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Boache. Okay, so any other questions from anyone? So, Mr. Peprah, I have a question
Please
concerning
go ahead.
ethics
Please go ahead.
because I also think that ethics is very important, especially for young leaders. And I think the example you gave about, cheating in school and then thinking it's okay, you're just helping out a friend. And then I remember I read something by, I don't remember his name, the founder of Ashesi University.
Patrick.
He wrote a quote, Patrick Ewa, yes, Patrick Ewa.
Mm.
He wrote a quote that how does corruption look like when you are 18 years? And then he said it is cheating in exams. That is corruption. So when you are 18 or 20 and then you think it's okay to cheat in exams, as you said, you are laying some seeds and then you are making it okay for yourself to cheat. So you grow up, you are a minister of state, and then it's okay to change the bill a bit, to inflate the bills a bit. So it's very important that as young leaders, we are able to develop strong personal values now that we can keep so that we become the kind of leaders we want to see in Africa. So I wanted to ask Mr. Peprah, what are some of the values that you mention as very important for young African leaders to have?
Okay. Let me try and pull a document from my tablet to be able to get you some small thing on that. I was trying to pull something for you, but unfortunately, I think that I can't. But personally, I go by three things: loyalty, proactive excellence, and hard work. Beyond all that are available, I think that the least everybody should be able to do is to hold loyalty, is to be hardworking. Dependability you can think of, but excellence also is available. But the underlying fact is that depending on the kind of organization that you lead, or even if not an organization, you yourself being accountable to yourself, what are the things that are required at your end to make sure that things run well? So is it about integrity, which I think is very key? Is it about your ability to be able to say that, look, if you go to Kofi and Kofi says that this, I won't do it, then you should know that Kofi won't do it. If people are able to say this about you, then you know that you are at that level. And it shouldn't always be, okay, I am a person of integrity, I'm a person of value, I'm a person of this. The best shot is what people say about you. If people say that, oh, as for this guy, forget about him, he won't do this, then you know that that is where you are. It's not just about having those ethics, but how you can clearly communicate it, let people know. Because for people who say that they are not corrupt, and I'm not talking about politicians, you can easily trap them because it is just words that they are saying. They don't actually live by those things. So you yourself should be able to find out what works for you and then stick by them. But I think that if you ask me, integrity should be basic. Dependability should be basic. Honesty should be basic. And personal values, strong ethics, and all those things are things that I think that should be basic for everybody, at least at this level. And as you go up, depending on your work, if there are any things that your organization require that you add to it, you add that to it.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions before we close?
Okay, Mr. Peprah, I want to ask in a group. Okay, I have two questions actually. Number one, how can you effectively communicate the objectives of a group to those who are leading? Okay, so that they always have the bigger picture or the vision at mind and at heart. Because sometimes you find people consistently giving you problems or consistently deviating from what the objectives you, the leader, wants to achieve in the group. So how can we effectively do that? And number two, um, how can you also identify potential leaders in a group so that as a leader you can know that okay, A and B can take over from me so that I can focus on them and then mentor them to take over when I am not on the scene. Yes, so those are my two questions.
Okay. If I heard you right, the second one was how to identify potential successes. And
Exactly.
then the first one was about how to clearly communicate your plan in the midst of adversity and people resisting all those things. Were those the two questions? All right.
Yes, sir.
I identifying potential at the corporate level. I know different organizations have levels and they have set down rules to be able to identify who sits where. I know of Unilever, I know of Chanchat, and they study people to be able to know who is best fit for what. That is at the corporate level. But at the individual level that most of us operate in, I think that taking time to first understand people and knowing them, and then number two, having a clear plan of where you want the organization or you want your group to be, these two things combined can help you to identify people. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes the right people come disguised. And I can tell you for a fact that I'm a very big example of that. If you know me very well, I am an extremely quiet person. People don't believe that. Even my wife doesn't believe me. But the point is, when I went into my organization first in 2009 after school, I went into volunteer and I was thrown out. Well, I wasn't thrown, I was thrown out though, but I was sidelined because I was told that, look, you are too quiet for what we are looking for. Not those words, but I didn't qualify to be there. But amongst all the 30 people who we worked with, I am the only one still with the organization. Not because I am the best, but because my superiors took time to understand me, to get to know my strengths, and to get to know what I can do best. On my part, I also learned a lot to be able to do what I'm doing now. I didn't say that, oh, because I've been identified. I should be able to do it. So I think what leaders can do after identifying them, let's put them on a course, maybe not clearly state out and say, learn this, learn that, but in your mind, put them in a gradual process, build them from stage to stage, test them sometimes. Let them know, okay, so how would you do this? Give them difficult tasks to be able to do and test their skills. And in doing that, you can identify those who can be able to do. And then again, I think that talking to them can also help. Talk to them and find out, look, I am thinking of you to become this in future. Are you inclined to that? Do you want to do it? Because sometimes the person may be capable, but the person may not have his heart in there. They only came to test the waters to see what will be available. So if you get a clear sense of where the person wants to be as well, I think that can also help you to be able to find where it is. So one, if you're able to match up what you need for the future to make your organization okay. Two, identifying those who are best fits, maybe in the beginning, but maybe with time things may change. And then three, discussing that with them to say that, look, this is my plan for you. What do you think? Are you able to go with me? Are you able to carry yourself along with me? This is the road we are going to travel. If people are inclined to you, I think that they would also come. On the first one about how to communicate your objectives or your clear, was that it? So it's about first, you yourself to be able to know where you are going. With what I have seen, most people are not even very clear of where they are going. It's not bad not to know because things keep changing every day. But have in your mind that in 5 years, I want to do this. Strategy may change, but your goal should remain the same. Whatever you want to do, once you are committed yourself, you can be able to carry people along with you. I don't know how to explain that, but maybe charisma may be the best word to describe it. That inner conviction that you have will drive people along with you. You may have issues with people who are not inclined to your objectives. There's nothing you can do about them. But genuinely, I know that there may be people, they may not be a lot, but even if it's one person, the person should be able to carry along with you. That doesn't mean that that is the only person you work with, because you have to work with other people, especially when you are in an organization that you have to work with other people who you don't necessarily control. Have a clear conviction about that. Your ability to be able to convince people is very key. And let me use an example of my classmate. I don't have his permission, so I'll not mention his name. So he's supposed to be a marketing person, and he works with a pharmaceutical organization. And what they do is that they look for big clients so that they can supply them with the medical products. So they'll go to this hospital and then they sign them up. So it's not like the mass marketing that you are always on the ground. And sometimes it takes more years, sometimes about 5 years to be able to get one client. And he was frustrated because for almost 7 years, he's been chasing one person and the person is not giving in. And when he brought that issue for discussion, the only thing that came up was that he couldn't connect with the person. The person really wanted that product, but you go to him and all that you need from him is that, oh, buy my product, buy this, do this, this is the benefit, this is it. But when he started connecting with the person to say, look, beyond work, you and I, what is it? He became friend with the person and clearly got to understand that the person is not the decision maker. The decision maker is someone else. And so in as much as you are trying to get this person here, someone else is the decision maker. The lesson from that is that if you really want to go with people and you want to carry people along with you, get to understand them. Don't see them as subordinates. See them as friends and connect with them. If they clearly don't like you, they will tell you. But if you're able to connect with people on an assignment, you will definitely go along with them. And your ability to be able to convince yourself and sacrifice for them, they will see those things that you do. And once you're able to sacrifice for them and they see that these are the things, I think that some of these things will go. So sometimes let's go beyond the normal things like, oh, these are our objectives. Number one, let's do this. Number two, we'll do that. Number three, find ways of connecting with the people, explain it to them in the language that they will understand. And when they understand it, they themselves will pick it up and run with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Peprah. I think it's so true. As you were talking, I was thinking about my current organization. I mean, the company that I work with, and how there is a lot of focus on understanding individuals. So before you are employed in the company, you do a personality test, and your manager does that with you. So your manager understands your personality and knows your work style based on your personality and how you are likely to relate with other team members, how you're likely to work. And I think that's one thing I love about my organization, how there's a lot of focus on understanding people and allowing people to be themselves and giving them the opportunity to excel in their area of strength. So I think that was great to hear.
Great.
Okay, so guys, no more questions. We are about to end, so this is like your last opportunity. If you have a question, you just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask. Okay.
Hello, can I ask again?
Yeah, I think please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me loud and clear, sir?
Very clear.
Very clear.
Please go ahead. Oh. Okay, I think it's gone off.
Mr. Peprah, you mentioned a book by an author when you were talking about.
I am attempting to
think. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, there's another question. You mentioned a book when you were talking about having time to think as a leader.
Yeah.
You mentioned reference. I don't know if you can share with us the author, the title of the book, so that, or if you have a soft copy, you can send to us. That would be excellent.
Okay. The soft copy I have is not the original version, but let me just give me a minute. Let me bring the book. 1 minute. This is the book, The Greatness Guide. I will search for the link and share that with you. But can I share the PDF on this platform?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm sure you can.
All right. I'll just drop the PDF right now.
Thank you very much.
If it's the link, you can, but I don't think you can attach a book.
Okay, you hold on. I'll find a way of it. If not, I'll send it to you. Then maybe you could circulate it on WhatsApp.
Yes, that will work.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is The Greatness Guide by Robin Sharma.
Okay,
It talks about, yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Peprah, for this really, really insightful session. I think we have all learned a whole lot, and we look forward to having you again for future sessions.
Definitely. I will share a more detailed notes on everything I said. I think it's about 3 or 4 pages, and then maybe we could circulate it together with the PDF document as well.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Right.
Thank you, everyone who joined. So if you have other questions, you can send it to me. I'll make the recording available so that you can watch it, as well as other fellows who couldn't join. So have a great weekend, everyone, and talk again soon.
Right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 You can unmute yourself and say bye if that's what you want to do.